Hey everyone, I'm your host, Ricky Shockley with MedSpa Magic Marketing, and this is the MedSpa Success Strategies Podcast, where MedSpa and aesthetics practice owners come to discover strategies and tactics that help them better market and manage their practices so they can grow, improve profitability, and have greater impact for their teams and their patients. I'm excited today to be joined by Haley Wood. Haley is a board-certified women's health nurse practitioner and the founder of The Look Aesthetics in Franklin, Tennessee. With over 16 years of experience, she's a nationally recognized trainer, speaker, and thought leader in the aesthetic space. Haley's been recognized for her achievements in a feature by Real Self as one of the top 25 most loved injectors. Haley, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is like one of those like, oh, that would be fun to do. So yeah, this is a time. It's nice to take time away from your practice to like talk about what you're doing, because there's so many other people who are in your same shoes who just need to know that they're doing it right and that it's okay to be right where you are, you know? So it's good to have these moments.
Yeah, absolutely. We started like a coaching group with our agency, and it's the same thing. I'd been doing this since 2012, and you're just isolated, and you're wondering if what you're doing is the right thing on so much of this stuff, and you don't have somebody that's a peer to bounce ideas off of. So yeah. I love that we're able to bring that kind of stuff to people through the podcast. So I guess to start, I just wanted to get your origin story. How did you get into this space? When you started your practice, what did that look like? Why did you decide to start your own practice? And how did you kind of grow over the last 8+ years that you've been in business? It was 8 years, right?
Yeah, 8 years as an entrepreneur, but I've been injecting for 19 years. So I came from critical care background. And I mean, I loved it. And I think that's where all nurse practitioners are. You kind of loved what you did, especially if you started that long ago, because this really wasn't just you go straight into like a med spa. That's actually what I did 19 years ago. There was a smaller med spa in Lexington, Kentucky. And I was like, I think I kind of want to do that. And so at the time, we were living in 2 hours away from Lexington. And so my son was still in pull-ups, and I just picked him up and we're like, okay, we're going to try this for a year. And the thought was, if I can learn this for a year, maybe I'll take it back to Owensboro, Kentucky, and open a med spa there. Well, when I got to Lexington, I interviewed, there was a waterfall and there was makeup. And I was like, who would not love this career? And I got into it and just literally fell into it. And I loved it. The girls who owned it at the time, they were from a TV station that did marketing. So I learned incredible marketing skills from the girls that owned it. And, you know, I was also thrown into a situation where they were weekend trainings. And you learned on the weekend how to crack open a vial of Botox. And then on Monday, you had 6 patients waiting on you. So it's just kind of thrown in without a lot of help. But sometimes you just kind of have to learn that way. And I did it for about a year and I loved it, but I just still felt like I needed that extra like solid core knowledge. And at the time we were in Lexington, Kentucky, and I was like, you know, and you sign a non-compete. I couldn't work anywhere around Lexington. So my educational background was Nashville. Gone to Vanderbilt to get my women's health nurse practitioner degree. So I'm like, let's come back to Nashville. Because I realized then that even though the goal was to take it back to Owensboro, Kentucky, the amount of money that people were spending, even at that time, 19 years ago, I didn't think it was going to float well in Owensboro because it's such a farming community. And so I thought, I think this is going to be much more reproducible probably in Nashville. But at the time we were going into the recession and I couldn't hardly find a job. And so I found a job with a plastic surgeon. That's really where I wanted to be because I felt like I needed that core knowledge that I had not learned in a med spa. And so I started working for a plastic surgeon and worked with him for 8 years and loved it. And I was in it to win it with him. But I realized that he was going to be retiring and I didn't know what that was going to mean from like other plastic surgeons coming into the practice, where that was going to leave me. So I thought, you know, now is probably the time. If I'm going to do something, I need to go ahead and branch out. And at the time, Dr. Moore said to me, because I'm a big Kentucky Wildcat fan, he said, you know, this is like Calipari sending off his players off to the NBA. Oh. He's my medical director now. I mean, I've always maintained a great relationship, but it's that core of plastic surgery knowledge that truly helped me like from a fundamental point of view, but also learned, you know, I learned a little bit on the management and the leadership side with him, but really until you start your own practice, which I did 8 years ago, you don't realize all the things that go into owning a business, from the legalities to the clinical to regulations to state compliance. I mean, there's so much more to it. I think if someone had asked me like 8 years ago, can you do this? Knowing what I know now, I mean, it's a lot. It's not undoable. It's just, like you said, you feel like you're on an island by yourself. So it can be tough, really tough, because no one ever teaches us the business side of things in nursing school, so you have to really learn that throughout the course of, I didn't know the difference between net profit and gross profit until I started like making commission. So it's interesting, how you grow over the years, but the business growth has really accelerated since I've owned my business.
Yeah. Awesome. So in preparation for this interview, I mentioned I was going through just your social media feed, and I was super impressed. I literally chatted it to our team, and I said, everybody that we work with needs to be doing what Haley's doing. And I think it was such a great blend of education, showing some personality and like just some heartwarming stuff that's just behind the scenes personal life stuff, behind the scenes with business, and then sprinkled in some fun. I just wanted to kind of pick your brain on that, because I thought that was such an amazing matrix of content that you have on social media. Such a good job of demonstrating expertise, developing those elements of know, like, and trust. And I think we see a lot of people in the med spa space thinking of this as like TikTok, and we're just going to make this entertainment.
Yeah.
And I don't know that aligns with a business objective as much as what you're doing. And you've got really good engagement. So I just wanted to kind of pick your brain. What goes into your thought process on how you manage social media?
Well, I've had some people say, well, you could do so much more. Like, you have such authority in this space. You could do so much more, and you could have, thousands of more followers. But to me, that's not ever been my intent. I've always, my mission and my core mission in practice and in teaching and training is always to make financially independent women. And I can kind of go over that story and why in just a few minutes. But my core is educating, and educating right, and not through sensationalized, drop it like it's hot TikToks. Like, we have the nurses who started this industry, like Jill Jones and Connie Brennan and Dawn Sagrillo and M.K. Maloney, Jerry Obie. Those women created and paved the way for professional aesthetic nursing. And when we come in here with our TikTok dances and all of that, it's like the old school nursing, like the sexy nurses, and the Halloween costumes. There is so much more behind nursing and where we got to today than the sensationalized what we've created on Instagram. And my purpose is always to bring it back to professionalism and true education. And you'll never go wrong with that. It'll stay consistent, and it'll be classic education.
And it maps to what you're trying to do. Is I'm trying to use, just from a business standpoint, I'm trying to use this as a way to engage with patients and prospects to develop trust and loyalty.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not against having fun and sprinkling in some fun stuff. I saw your blooper reels. I thought that was really great and fun. But so many of us are just skipping past that part of it and just thinking of this as strictly an entertainment platform, and social media as an entertainment platform. That doesn't ultimately map to someone developing those factors of, well, at least not the trust component, right? Exactly. Maybe they know you and they like you, but they're not going to do business with you if they don't trust you to stick a needle in their face.
Yeah. And credibility, where is the credibility in what you're doing? I remember sitting on a plane. I was going to Ice Band to do a talk. I was on the plane with someone else who's from this area, and he was going to be doing a talk. And I said, what do you want to be known for? And he goes, as an entertainer. He's a nurse, injector. And I was like, you're hitting the mark, buddy. Entertainment is your gig. But there's not one solid core of education. But that's the type of patient that you're going to attract. If you attract that sensationalized, trendy moment, you're going to attract that patient, and that doesn't feed my practice.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. I also noticed you mentioned people saying that they feel like you could be doing more. So the frequency question, I think, is something people think about on social media too. Yeah. You don't post necessarily something every single day. You're posting when you feel like you have something valuable to say, it seems like. How do you balance the tension between trying to be consistent, but not just posting because you feel like you have to post, versus posting something that you feel like is truly adding some value?
Yeah, I know I could post a lot more, but at the end of the day, like those Mississippi moments I have when I'm driving down to Mississippi to see my son and I'm in the car for 4 hours. Like, send me a question. And it's literally just an authentic moment of, let me answer this and being intentional about the question that you're giving me. And who, like that, I think we were going to talk about it in a few minutes, that post that I had regarding the hustle mentality. Like, it just came out of nowhere, but everyone's thinking it, and everyone, wants to hear what someone has to say who's been doing this for a long time. So if I have a moment or something's happened in the practice and I feel like it needs to be said, like yesterday, I was like, girls, we need to talk about losing weight with GLPs, having no shame in it, and how to address the facial volume loss over time with that. So I'll just think about those things and they just kind of hit me, and I'm just surrounded by a team, like especially at the office, who will capture that moment. But on my personal or my personal Instagram page, it's literally just something that just strikes me. And I think, business owners, there's so much more than just owning a business. It's the balance of who you are, especially women business owners. You're the injector, you're the nurturer, but you're probably come home to a family and you got to take care of that at home. So I think it's seeing the whole gamut of who you are, and I think that's what leads to the credibility and the trust factor, like you talked about.
Yeah, I love that. And again, we're going to put your social media links in the show notes for everybody that's thinking, okay, I want to see what all this is if they're listening in audio form. One of the other things I loved that you did was you had this this reel or this post where you were talking about a learning moment. And it was something I think that you thought that you were doing originally when you brought on a new product line. I can't remember what it was, and the results weren't lasting as long. And so the treatment plan wasn't quite dialed in. And you were talking about how you had this learning lesson with how you were providing treatment. I think that's something people are afraid to do generally. I think that it adds an enormous amount of trust and credibility. How do you go about making those decisions on the importance of really just being authentic and not being afraid to share? Hey, this is something we were doing before that was less than ideal. This is how we adjusted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what life is all about. And you shouldn't just put things on social media that just look perfected, because you have to go through. It's just like, we have ultra clear now. So it's a laser and it's an ablative laser. And are we like doing the right products post-treatment? Are we going to change that up? There's so much behind, like we sold our Morpheus 8 because we have better results with Soft Wave. And I'm not afraid to like admit that I was wrong. I'm never afraid to admit like because it's always a gap. There's a gap and there's an opportunity. And the opportunity is to do things better and just to be human and acknowledge, hey, we could have done that a whole lot better. And now this is what we've learned and this is what we're bringing to you guys. And we actually do a video in the office of saying, hey, we did a ton of Morpheus 8 in Williamson County. We're in the top 10s in that area, but we found something better. And so we're bringing it back to you guys.
That's a side note, but I love that. I think so many people get married to this device because they purchased this device or that they kind of lose sight of your goal is to treat patients and get the best outcome. Mm-hmm. And if you as the provider feel like there's something better and you decide to adjust, that's not throwing in the towel. That's chasing the objective that you should be chasing, which is better patient care.
Yeah. I mean, probably the worst decision I ever made was to buy a Cool Tone. Like the worst. And we use it, but it was just a horrible decision. You're going to make bad decisions as a business owner because you think you're doing the right thing, but in the end, sometimes it just doesn't prove to be that. And it wasn't a horrible decision with Morpheus 8. It's just we found better. So we sold it for $12,000, took a little hit on it, but now we're just rocking and rolling with Soft Wave. So, it's not letting yourself get beat up with the bad decisions. I mean, you're going to hire a bad employee once in a while. So I always say like hire slow and fire quick. So, I mean, there's things that I've definitely done wrong throughout the last 8 years, but I've learned from it. And from that, we do better.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Switching to team questions, a few questions on team and people. So going to that quote about what you're looking for when you bring on a new team member is you want that hustle. Mm-hmm. And you said you'll know this maybe 8 to 10 months in. You'll definitely know it by a year. What does that mean to you? Is that something you're only looking for in injectors? Is that team-wide, front desk, everybody on the team? And what does that mean to you?
It means like showing up on time. It means being responsible for your work. It means not making excuses. It means like taking the initiative to call patients back and say, how did you do after your treatment? Like, don't lean on everyone else to grow your practice. It's not on the front desk the front desk responsibility to reschedule your appointments. It's your responsibility to walk your patient up to the front and say, hey, I want to see you back in 4 months. Let's do the same thing. What does September look like for you? And then let the front desk schedule that appointment and then take the money. Like, it's your responsibility to maintain relationships and to really cultivate relationships with your patients. It is not the marketing teams. It's not the Instagram teams. And what are you going to do to grow your own education and career? Don't lean on me to give it all to you. And you totally know within like 6, 7, 8 months, someone can come in with like so much hustle and then it fizzles out like after 6 to 8 weeks, because you can start seeing like the blaming game, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm always here to help coach someone through it, but I'm not here to tolerate it. And they're like, you run a tight ship. I'm like, I run a tight ship because I want my brand and our clinic to be better than anyone else in the state of Tennessee. Like, I want them to know, like, when you walk into the look, it's exactly what shows up. Like, everything you see on Instagram, everything that you see is detailed, it's perfection. And I want them to feel that when they walk into the practice. So when you come in at 5 minutes before your patient and your towels aren't warm and things like that, I am totally going to call you out on that and put a plan in place. Like, if you can't get there 30 minutes before your first patient, just turn around back and go back home. Like, you just can't tolerate that stuff if you want a first-class practice.
Yeah, I love that. And that's been a common theme about the provider being in charge of the patient relationship, going to the front desk, telling them, hey, this is when I want to see you, not letting them leave the treatment room and leaving the entire rebooking process. These are the kinds of flaws that I think people overlook that are critical to the success of your business.
Yes.
And everybody wants to automate and AI and all this kind of stuff. And this is a relationship-based business.
100%.
Imagine the difference in the patient experience if they get a call from their injector a couple of weeks post-appointment to check on them versus they get an automated text message that just says, how are you doing? It's a completely different experience.
Yeah, it's transactional. It's reactive. You want to be proactive in relationships. And when you do that, I remember in the very beginning, I said this in that post. I'm like, back in the day, you walk, so many miles to school, but I literally I had like this little bitty plastic box, and it had the months of the year in it, like January through December. If a patient came in January, I had a 3x5 card of like things we talked about, like in the room, and I put it in the April month. When April came around, it was my time to call those patients. This was before EMR. Didn't have EMR. I'm dating myself so much. But I would call those patients back and say, hey, I know you like Tuesday nights at 6:00 or whatever. I've got that time open. It's probably time for your treatment again. Does that work for you? And then just, I know that when you're seeing 22, I saw 22 patients the other day, and that's not consistent. Like, I can't consistently really cultivate relationships that way. But if you walk in the door saying, how was your trip to Cabo? Or we're getting you ready for the wedding, something that connects you with the patient, you have to go above and beyond. And that to me, you could drop someone's brow, you can mess up their lips, but they trust you because they have faith in you. And that's the difference between like a reactive or transactional reactive injector and someone who's going to be able to take this to their retirement.
Yeah, amazing. And again, we talked a little bit before the episode how everyone's always looking for the silver bullet. Like, I just need more patients. No, it's really not. Because even if you're getting new patients, if you're not retaining them and they're not thrilled with the service, it doesn't matter. It's not going to work.
No.
And when you look at like patient retention and loyalty, the devil's in the details, and all those little things in terms of the patient experience really, really add up. But I think that's great advice. So with team, and we talk about, you want these people that are A players, they have the hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming this is probably something that comes up for a lot of practice owners. They might have people that are B players. They're not your rock star full hustle, but they're not like a total dumpster fire. Maybe they're just adequate. What do you do with those people? How do you think about that type of interaction with those employees?
Well, it's easy to motivate somebody if they're money motivated. And I speak that language. But when someone's just motivated because they want a great place to work, they love their employees, you have to really understand you do have to understand what motivates someone. I think that's where the Enneagram testing is so good, because you understand what motivates you. We've also done different testing where I can't remember the name of the testing. I'll give it to you later. But is someone a learner? Because if someone's just a learner, they may not really be activated to do anything with that learning, but they just want the knowledge of it. So we've done testing on all different types of testing on our staff to understand what do they bring to the team. Because one girl on my team is really good about hugging someone who just needs a hug. I may not see that. And that's why I think it takes really knowing your team, knowing their love languages. And I'm really big on the culture of our team and making sure that we all understand each other. And like you said, those B players can be consistent for years. They may be just 3 days a week. They may just do their job and they only want to do like just certain services. And I think I've learned and I've changed to where as long as that's good for the practice and that's what the practice needs, you can do those services as long as you're consistent. No, we're not having any issues with the treatments you're doing, but I'm not going to stop there and not hire someone else to do something else possibly. You can stay right where you are. If you're happy with $15,000 a month in gross revenue, okay. But I can't stop my practice growth because of that. I'm going to hire someone else to see if she can move and motivate. And if this new player seems to outweigh the B player, then the B player may may not be room for her any longer in the practice.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
One of the things that I saw on your Instagram was your team retreat. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about that. You mentioned how you treat people, developing a good culture. What does that look like for you at a high level? How do you develop a good culture where people are excited to be there? They feel like their incentive structure is aligned. You're retaining your team. I know injector retention is something that comes up a lot for us on the podcast. Yeah. How do you go about thinking about culture and team retention?
Well, it's not something we're taught in school. And so when I first started this practice, I did 3 things. One, I surrounded myself with other nurse practitioners who had started their own practice, and we called ourselves the Aesthetic Masterminds. And that kind of grew, and we did a couple of conferences and stuff like that. But at the very basic, it was I just wanted to surround myself with people who were doing it better than me so I could learn from them. Because you often feel like you are, like you said, that island out there. So we still text each other, like our core group of 12, we at least throw one text out there for the group at least once a week to help. The other thing I did was I joined this group called Strategic Coach, and they're kind of an international business coaching development group. And from that, I did that for about a year. It was really great in understanding like where you want to be, celebrating your successes. And I learned some good things, but from that, I learned I deviated from that, stopped Strategic Coach and started seeing a girl named Molly Rudberg. And she's what I don't consider her a business coach. I consider her like a leadership coach. And she doesn't come from the business of aesthetics, even though she has a lot of MPs who are in aesthetics now. She just helped me understand how to lead and lead well. And that starts with communication and building a thriving culture. And so, at the very core, we meet every Monday at 8:15 just to kind of go over like what's going on for the week. If there's anything going on last week that we need to still pay attention to, some red flag patients. That way we're all in the same room and we're all discussing it. And from there and that's just like a 15-minute like debriefing, nothing major. But once a month, we'll have a longer 1-hour meeting. And that's something where we're going to go over policies, changes, anything that's like that, new products, things like that. And then at the end of that 1-hour meeting, sometimes I need to get better about doing this, but we typically do what we call acknowledgements. An acknowledgement is we go around the room and we acknowledge someone on our team for either something that nobody else would know about, or they made their job better, or like, hey, Amy, I saw where that patient was pretty tearful after an appointment and you hugged her or you gave her this, like, I want to acknowledge for what she did. So then Amy acknowledges someone else on the team. And then I get to hear all the ways that our staff have impacted the practice or each other that I was completely unaware of. So we try to do that at least once a month. to make everyone feel seen and heard. And the same thing about patient how do you develop these patients? Everyone at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, you want to be seen and heard. And that moment of like acknowledgments does that for our team. And from there, we do one-on-one. So we have a leadership team. And on my leadership team, I have my manager, Andrea. Our clinical lead is Courtney. She's the other nurse practitioner. And then our esthetician lead is Amy. I don't make any decisions truly without that core group of girls. And that they lead one-on-ones with other staff. So Courtney has a one-on-one with the medical assistant or a one-on-one with the other nurse practitioners. Amy has hers with the other estheticians, and then Andrea has her one-on-ones with the front desk team. And the one-on-ones are just my time with you to say, what can I do as your leader to make your job better? Or is there something you want to talk about that's really bothering you? And those one-on-ones have really served such a good purpose of, let's say there's something going on, like someone, I don't know, is, for example, one of our front desks that's not with us, she was always looking at recipes up front, and she always had like a Sonic drink up front. I'm like, let's have a one-on-one real quick. And I'm like, what's going on? Or why you been running late? Or let's talk about the way this shows up. Like when you're looking at recipes on the front, on the computer, or buying your Louis Vuittons, how does this show up for the patient who's walking into the door, And it's just an opportunity for us to get on the same page. And then from there, I do leadership meetings with my staff once a month. And then Andrea, my manager, she and we meet every other month with my leadership coach so that she and I are on the same page on leading the practice. So all that to say, the hours it takes to communicate and to meet, it's what you have to do when we have 11 girls. It seems like we probably have 50 as much as we communicate, but as women, like, you have to. I always say that, like, well, how many people do you have on your staff? I'm like, I have 24 ovaries. Like, because just being from nursing and all of that, it's just, if you don't communicate well and your intention is not there, the story can get changed so many times. And so that's our form of communication in creating a leadership, creating a thriving culture. And then once a year, like you said, we do our staff retreat, and I rent out a place. It's either like in Leapers Fork, or we did it in Franklin this year. It's a big house. Everybody can stay there that night. My leadership coach, Molly, comes in and she leads it for the day. We talk about our successes, what we've accomplished. We talk about what we finished up and got cleaned up from last year's meeting. And really where we want to go next year, and where are our gaps, and how do we want to fix those moving forward. So we did that this year in Franklin, and we spend the whole day doing that. We take time out of the practice. We have food catered in and things like that. So that way,
probably not a lot of people doing that. I think that's a really, really good idea, though. And I can imagine that's something that you only do that once a year, but it's probably so impactful, so different. It's such a change of pace. You're literally like closing the business for a day. You're all getting together.
Yeah.
That it tends to stick with people. It probably strengthens relationships among the team. It creates alignment in addition to all the other meetings that you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's communication. And I think when communication is disjointed, a lot of other things fall apart.
For sure. When I worked with a plastic surgeon, and he admits it today, he's like, I'm a poor communicator. But it trickles down. And if you don't communicate well, then someone's going to communicate for you on your behalf. And then that's when the story gets twisted. So, communication is just key for us. And I meet every day with my office manager, even if it's for 50 minutes.
I love the team retreat with your leadership coach that comes in. Because when we talk about kind of creating alignment, it creates buy-in. People feel like, oh, I'm actually part of this. We're trying to accomplish a goal. I'm not just doing this for somebody else. I'm not a cog in a wheel. I'm part of this team that's trying to build and achieve.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you have those moments, and there's usually tears flowing at some point, we've hit someone, we get down to like, we're doing this for our team, but we're doing this for you. Like, I want you to be empowered as a woman. Like, there's so much more to your life than just this 8-hour job. And yes, we're there for the staff retreat, but what can I bring to the table that makes you a better woman, for wherever you show up in life? That's where our personality testing will do, and then you really get some great insight onto why you do the things you do, and do respond and react the way you do.
Those personality tests, I know so many people use them for hiring, but probably rarely are people going back to just their existing team and figuring out, hey, what are these people's strengths and weaknesses? How do they communicate? And how do we make sure this all plays well together? Were there some, I know you mentioned the one that you liked that you couldn't remember the name of. You mentioned Enneagram. Are there any others that you've used that you like or that you rely on?
Love language is just really just simple, basic, and easy. So that when I see someone doing something that really is like outstanding, like, do you want a gift? Do you want words of acknowledgement? Do you want something service-wise? Can I grab you lunch? Like, how do you feel loved? And that has really served me well. The Enneagram is helpful for motivation. Like, I have one girl that's 100% motivated by money. She could care less about anything else you do for her, but she loves that paycheck. I have another one who's motivated just by loving who she works with. And so the Enneagram is great for that one. The other one is I think it's Strength Finders. And Strength Finders, for example, helped me learn that Courtney loves to learn. So from a clinical lead, she's great. Say, tell me all the things you can learn on PRF or learn all the things you can learn on Area Essence, and let's put a protocol together. Then I'm the implementer. She does the learning and I do the implementation of, okay, here's the pricing, here's how we're going to set these appointment types up, and here's the protocol for it, So that has really helped me learn the assets of our team, and especially like your marketing team. Like, you really want to understand like what makes your marketing team hum and drum, because organization is huge on that front too, so that you're always ahead of the curve on marketing versus behind it.
This episode is brought to you by MedSpa Magic Marketing, my agency. We help med spas and aesthetics practices grow with more effective marketing strategies. And I know that's a vague phrase, right? It's a vague claim. So I have an offer for you. I offer this to any new prospects. If you're interested in exploring another marketing option, a new agency, or just getting into Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads for the first time, I'd love to show you why we're different, what we're doing for clients. And we can do that via a 1.5 hour planning session where I'll outline a specific marketing plan, and I'll give you all of the blueprints that we would implement if we were to do business together. Now, you can take that, use that on your own, hire someone else to help you execute it, or work with us. We really don't hold anything back on that strategy call. And I think you'll have a lot of confidence in how you manage your marketing investment moving forward, understanding some of the nuances that can help you implement more effective marketing strategies for your business. So if you want to do that, you can go to medspamagicmarketing.com. Cool. Well, to switch gears to marketing, that's a perfect segue. What you mentioned a marketing team. What does that look like for you all? And I know you mentioned, I think in one of your videos that I was watching, you all don't do a ton of advertising. You'll run some specials and promos selectively. So when you say marketing, what kind of stuff is going into your thought process behind how you're presenting to the outside world?
Yeah, I've never been someone who wanted to do monthly specials, because then you get the patient loyal, as everyone knows, to the dollar versus you. And so we run semi-annual gift card sales. And it's really, I don't want this to be a bragging moment, but I say this, and I say this like when I do talks, is that you can start your practice and it may take you 8 years to build to this point. Don't worry about the time. Just build a solid practice. In one day, we did over $200,000 of gift card sales in 8 hours. And it's like, how does this happen? I know there's med spas who do much more, like $1 million a day. Awesome for them. But I'm just so pleased with like $200,000. And back in the day, awesome. It was just $50,000 for the day. That was amazing too. But all we give them is just free money when they buy money. And so it's like, if you buy, our most common and most popular gift card sales are like $2,000 and $3,000 gift cards. For $3,000, they get $400 free. And they can put that on anything they want to. And so we already have the money banked. It's in their, account. And they just, it's not like, okay, well, this package is this. So you got to get all these things out of that package. It's just use it down as you want to. It's so much easier for me from like a logistical point of view, from an inventory point of view. And then you're not saying, well, what special did you buy? And what month was that? That's a mess to me. I can't keep up with that. So that from a marketing point of view, we don't do a lot of specials. I will say that in the beginning, I was like, we don't need to market because it's word of mouth and I'm established. People know who I am. But that changes when you bring new injectors onto your practice, because they know your name, Haley Wood, but they don't know other people. So you do have to get your name out there. We do a few magazines. We've partnered with some really high-end neighborhood magazines, and they're so wonderful about reposting us. And so that collaboration with them has been fantastic. And I will maintain like print ads with them because they do so much on the social side too.
Yeah.
We have not found sponsored ads to be honestly with you to be super effective. Our email marketing strategy with a link to book an appointment or a link to buy, that's been super strong. So I'm always doing things to strengthen our email marketing, whether lead generators, or we're working on that kind of stuff right now. But our team consists of, we have a brilliant girl who, she's full-time. She works 3 days in the office and then 2 days home getting stuff done, just the back end logistics stuff. And she kind of like, she's always thinking about, where would we need to be for the next quarter ahead. So we're always working 1 quarter ahead. And we've kind of planned out for the year.
I love that.
Yeah, you have to. You have to.
You would be shocked how many people don't have that mindset. Everything is a last minute decision. So thinking a quarter ahead and planning strategically, very, very important.
Because when you have, like, for example, she coordinates, we have branded photography every quarter. So that, like, now is when we're taking our pictures for the next quarter's social media. So that's what I'm saying. Like, your marketing girl has to be uber organized and communicate really well on what we need to get now for the next, 4 or 5 months. So when we're going to do a promo where we have certain people working on Saturdays together, we get their pictures together. We get those 2 products together. She's helped us create like these calendars. So when patients come in, we're like, okay, here's your entire annual calendar. We're going to do your toxins January, May, and September. And then you're going to throw in your soft wave in July. 3 months after that, we're going to do filler. And we put all that on a calendar. So she's helped create all that. And
do you present that as a treatment plan, essentially? Like you're looking at the year and creating a treatment plan based on consultation?
Yes. So every new patient, hopefully, and this is where consistency is so good in developing those relationships. It's like, okay, girl, like if you just want to do toxins, that's totally fine, but let's pair it with a microneedling, because then we can relax the muscle, then get the collagen induced. And we're going to do that 3 weeks after every toxin. So you're going to get a toxin in January, 3 weeks later, you're going to get your microneedling, and you're going to send them home with that calendar. And I started doing that consistently, like about just on the microneedling and toxin portion of it, I'd say consistently starting back in March of this year, I was like, let's pair this and this together. And we looked at the numbers. Last year, we did like $6,000 between April of 2024 to like May. I would say maybe March to May. We did $6,000 in microneedling, nothing major. This year, over $19,000. It's just the power of communication and just putting a printed visual plan. So marketing to me is not just social media. It's like, what's the branded paper and that you give to patients, from post-treatment instructions to your calendar. We don't have any brochures out in our front lobby. I think they look horrible. They don't match my brand. So we take them all down. And if you want something, we'll hand it to you, but it's not going to come, like, I'm not going to have it all sitting out and jumbled on the front.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Great advice. I'm trying to think if I have any other questions on the marketing side.
Like, reel me back in if I go on a scroll.
No, that was good. That was really, really good. And I love the idea of the treatment plan, because we've talked about the difference between sales and consultation.
Yes.
And that's kind of can be a gray area. And I really lean on the side. We had a really great guest, Raquel Merlini, came on the podcast a couple months ago, and she talked about her thought process behind how she provides consultation and how she thinks about sales. And it was a little unorthodox compared to a lot of the other people we've talked to. So I just want to do what's best for the patient. So I'm not going to have sales incentives necessarily that are like, hey, you're going to get a bonus if you sell someone a microneedling package. We'll recommend it as part of our treatment plan because we believe in it.
Yes.
And it'll supplement what you're already doing, and it'll help you achieve the outcome. So how do you go about drawing a distinction between what are we doing that's sales and what are we doing that's just coming up with a treatment plan that addresses a client's concerns?
Well, I've never given quotas to the girls. Like I don't like that approach, but I will say the only time I've ever given quotas is if there's what we talked about, a team B player, someone who just needs some, like, we got to like get to this certain point for you to maintain this position. If we can't do this, there's no way I can have you. If you can't sell this much in this, there's no way I can train you on the next thing. So, but I've never had team quotas. I've never had anything like that, because I feel like what you're saying is that it seems too pushy, and then there's no authenticity behind what the patient needs. It's why we don't put packages together. Like, and I don't like to say like we do a la carte, because people are like, I want to get away from a la carte. But like, gosh, everybody who's come in this morning already to see me needed different things. So we just say, if you need 4 syringes of filler, it's $2,800. If you need 3 syringes, it's $23. Like, we have prices for the amount of syringes you need, but I'm not going to do this whole package deal.
Yeah. And I think the danger of some of these package deals too is people try to give it a fancy name. They throw 3 or 4 services together and try to change the price point completely. Mm-hmm. And if people figure out what you're doing, they're not going to be too thrilled to realize they paid 50% extra because you put a fancy name in a bow on a combination of 3 of the services that don't cost as much as you try to charge too. Yeah. I think that, like we talked about, having this B player that you maybe need to get up to speed. Is it mostly because those people are just failing to communicate? Like, hey, you're not even telling clients that the microneedling would be good to pair with their toxin appointments, to do it in tandem. They're not really communicating. Is that mostly the issue when you find that stuff popping up?
Yeah. I think it's that. And then, product sales are just so easy. Like, you get 10% commission on a product sale. So products should be just a natural part of your conversation in the treatment process. Like, we do 20% off of a product every time you come in for a service, because we want to incentivize the patient to buy it, but everybody should be on good skincare. So it's that kind of thing, like, I'm sure it sounds salesy because we're 20% off, but the goal is like, are you on a vitamin C this summer? And educating the patient, hey, you need to at least be on a vitamin C, at least during the hot summertime.
I think the thing that maybe is underlying here is you're selling things you believe in.
Yes.
And if you're selling things you believe in, it's not sales. You feel excited. Like, I love this. I promise this is something that you're going to love too.
Yeah.
That completely changes the dynamic.
Yeah. And one thing we did this year that I think it was expensive, but I'm glad we did it. It was create a 40-minute commercial loop. And we brought in a photographer and we actually went down to the Revance headquarters and shot it, because they have such a beautiful headquarters, and you can do it in your office. You can do it anywhere. But we brought in our providers and we had conversations. They were not scripted. We just had like topics. And we talked about, what's the best thing that Amy did for my skin last year? It was a Moxie 3-step peel. And we talked about what to expect. Then that kind of goes into like, what's the difference between Botox, Dysport, and Daxi? And while the patient's sitting there in the room, we have TV screens, and we literally just created the video. It's on a, what do you call it? Like a little
USB.
We plug it in and we start the reel every morning. And we talk about Cool Sculpt, because when a patient, if don't have brochures out and all that stuff, they have no idea all the things you do in your practice. But by creating that 40-minute loop, that's where we've maintained consistency across like the brand, and then how we all do things the same way. Like, if you need to come in and get soft wave done, we're going to wait 3 months to get filler done. So we're all, that messaging is the same, and the patient here's things that we do that I may not have time to talk about in a 15-minute appointment.
Yep.
So that is something we've done from a marketing point of view. And it also helps those B players, spark the conversation. If they're not comfortable talking about it, the patient like, well, tell me more about, Ultra Clear. Like, what's that? It's prompting the conversation for someone. It just doesn't come natural to them.
Yeah. Cool. Love that. Segueing over to service lists. One of your videos, you talk about the trend with filler kind of becoming less popular, but you shared this case study of one of your clients that I saw the before and after, really awesome results. And you would have thought that maybe there were all these other things involved, and it was primarily actually just filler was the main thing that she'd been doing as kind of a routine service. Can you talk about, I guess, 2 things? One, your thoughts on the current state of filler specifically.
Yeah.
And then second, any other just service trends that you see right now in the space, things becoming less popular, more popular?
Yeah. Well, I hate to see the fillers are taking like a back seat right now. They're going to have a backseat moment. I think they're going to come back. I do think it's because people were overfilled for so long that the misconception is that that's what filler is going to do. So there's just like this whole huge halt on it. And there's also this, notion too that we have done a really good job. Some of us have done a really good job of creating really natural results with great fillers, and they're going to last longer. And so year after year after year after injecting filler, right now patients just can slide for a while. They don't really need it. And when you think about what we have today versus what we had 10 years ago, you have the soft waves, you have the ultra clears, you have all these different modalities, M-Sculpt, all of this that are taking a part in someone's, plan of care. And so fillers will always fill a need, but they're just not our go-to for every single little fine line and wrinkle like they used to be. And so I think that it'll come back around, but I just tell patients, and I know there's a big trend on biostimulators right now. I think that's going to go away too. I think that Sculpture's having its moment. I'm using a little bit more Sculpture than I used to. I just don't use more than 4 vials. And at a time, I let it coast for 25 years or 2.5, or was it 25 months, I think. And then we'll do it again. I think it's going to wane a little bit. PRF has had its moment. It's going to wane. Everything kind of like has it ebbs and flows depending on how successful until the new thing comes out. Right. So I think fillers will always have a place, especially with these GLPs. I tell patients, and I was telling the girls yesterday, I'm like, we got to do a video on GLPs because we need to hit these patients of every 10 pounds of weight loss rather than waiting till like they've lost 40 pounds and then they need facial fat grafting. So fillers are definitely they're going to play a part. I just hope that this unnatural look does go away. It's the same thing with toxin. Like my son's at college at Mississippi State and goes, Mom, have you seen all these TikToks and everything? I'm not on TikTok. He's like, have you seen all these TikToks about like Botox being a poison? And I'm like, I know it's having its moment. And everybody follows all these sensationalized, Instagrammers. But you have to, this just goes back to even your injectors. You've got to go and learn learn the basics and really be wise and be a scientist as to what you're using and why you're using it. And I tell patients, like, I don't want to do filler. I'm like, okay, well, tell me what your fear is. And they're like, well, I don't want to look unnatural. It's always the way they're going to look. It's not the product. And I said, well, at its core, the product is a sugar molecule. You have it in your skin and I can break it down. So it's just that moment of saying, what are you scared of, and addressing that. And then they can turn into a filler patient. But the patient that we showed on Instagram, she had done some acne scarring. We have used filler in the past, but then we bundled it with some soft wave and ultra clear. And she had just a beautiful result, but it was filler. And so I think people forget that filler does have a place. It just depends on how much you use it and which fillers you use.
Yeah, makes sense. I know I keep hearing this, but I'm not sure when it happened or why. Like the filler started kind of seeing this and Sculpture started doing this. Mm-hmm. Do you know what's behind that?
Well, I think, if I'm not wrong, if Sculpture it started having its moment again when it had that new indication, I think for I may be completely wrong. I may be totally misspoken about this, but when Sculpture had a new indication for, you could reconstitute it the day of, and they were doing some new trainings on how much saline to put in, and you could make it the day of, versus like making it 3 days ahead. That's when I started seeing this trend. And that started about 2 years ago. And now it's kind of caught wind. Yeah.
Yeah. You look at Google Trends data and it's kind of just going up and up and up. But I think you're right. So many of these things have their moment in the sun. Trends kind of come and go. Mm-hmm. I think the good part about the trends coming and going, if it's injectables, is you can adjust your ordering. If the trends come and go with like a laser product, that's a little scarier.
I know, especially as expensive as they are. Yeah.
Just exactly.
Warranty behind them too. I mean, just for the Monster Media platform, it's $18,000 warranty if you go with Cyton to get it. It's crazy.
So this has actually been a very common theme on the podcast, device sales. Yeah. And people feeling like, have your red flags up, be warned, be really strategic if you're going to go purchase a device, because so many of these things, you're oversold this bill of goods from the manufacturer. They give you these projections that sound great. Don't worry, you're going to cover the expense. And then you're sitting there with 2 or 3 dusty machines in a back corner that nobody wants. Yeah. How do you go about thinking about device purchases and managing that expense in the business? Because I know those can be so expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the first device I got was hydrofacial. And back then, I mean, it was cheap enough to where I had enough funds to buy it outright. But the first big purchase I had back then was cool sculpting. And back then, they would not give nurse practitioners loans. Like you had to go, like, they were all for physicians, but they weren't for NPs. So I had to get traditional bank loans for that. Same thing, with your build out loans and construction loans and things of that nature. I have just been super blessed with an esthetician who truly loves, I mean, she is in it to win it. And I have to get her backing and her in for whatever device she's going to use. So she's the one who's been the one doing cool sculpting. She's one who's done our soft wave and our Moxie BBL. Like she learns it. She loves it. She's passionate about it. And she does good work. And I say she's a unicorn esthetician. She loves it. And she takes good care of her patients. I would not buy a device. I didn't think I know I have to use it myself. So I always say, if everybody left me tomorrow, can I use all the devices in the practice? I can definitely use BBL Moxie. The soft wave is one I'd have to go back and learn. And cool sculpting is one I'd have to go back and learn. But I have developed that trust with Amy to where, I mean, she could walk out tomorrow and I know that, but I feel like she would stay and she's going to use that device and manage it on her own.
So she's taken ownership of that part of the business.
That's
really
been the key for me, is just having someone who will own that and take it and lead it and learn everything about it. I always do the initial trainings just so I can make sure I'm aware of everything. But when it comes to like the ablative laser, Courtney and I, the nurse practitioners, do that. It's outside of Amy's scope of practice. So Courtney and I do that. And so we've learned it. But yeah, I think the key is like making sure that whoever you want to use it, and people are going to come in and out of your practice, but the Moxie BBL platform has been outstanding for us. The soft wave device has been outstanding for us. But again, Amy has just loved it, had passion for it, and wants to use it.
Are most of those device sales for you? So one of the things that I struggle with in conversations with practice owners is they have these things and they want to sell them and they think that they're going to go like market them directly and get clients to come in. And that can be really challenging. It seems to me that the most effective way to sell those types of device packages is through the existing clients you have. So you have all these clients coming in for Botox and filler.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are buying this other stuff for the most part. It's not generally somebody coming straight from the street as a one-off for like BBL Moxie.
No. And because you need to know, like, what would you be like, do I have a need for an ablative laser in my practice? Am I sending it off to somebody else to have done? Am I sending skin tightening off to somebody else? Because you're right. Like, it happens in the room. It's like, whatever Haley suggests, I'm going to do. I'm like, girl, like, go get your soft wave. And then 3 months later after that, we'll do some filler. So you're right. It has to come from someone in your practice suggesting it and filtering it down. My practice grows right in alignment with Amy as the esthetician. If I grow by 11%, Amy grows by 11%. And it's literally been that consistent year after year after year. Now that can get a little dicey. Like, let's say there's an injector who really wants to do the filler and they're going to lose money possibly by referring out for something like that before the patient comes back in. I think that's where you really got to have a good sense of like who's in your practice, and we're doing this for the patient, not for the money. And I've never had that problem in my practice, thank goodness, because one of our cores is being honest and being safe. And if you really feel like the patient needs to do this, one, you could do it as a provider. You can learn how to do soft wave or Moxie and you provide the service and get the commission on it if you wanted to, or just know that the patient trusts you enough to come back when that service has been done.
Yeah, makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think that aligns up with everything that I've kind of learned and heard too.
And the other thing is we've done they call it AIG events, and the AIG events do a great job of, like, say, we're going to do one like next week with soft wave. They take care of all the marketing on your social media. You record the content that they need, and then they showcase. It's like a live webinar. It's like a commercial that goes on for like 12 minutes, and it's a live Q&A at the end, and there's a call to action at the end. We do about 3 of those a year because we don't like to do I hate in-office events. One, because everyone's got a life at home. So after 4, like we literally are packed up and out of that office at 4:10 every afternoon. Yeah. But events do not work in our practice because our patients are stay-at-home moms. They got their kids at night. They would rather do a virtual event. So they just log on, watch it. And if like, for example, if you watch the event on Tuesday night, you get 20% off your software package. We rarely do that, but it is summer season. You can do SoftWave, and some are slower. So promote things. But this happened like last quarter. We were planning.
This is going to happen, so you can plan ahead.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey there, wanted to briefly interrupt the episode to make a quick ask. If you're a podcast listener, it would mean the world to us if you'd leave a review for the podcast, whether that's on iTunes or Spotify. It's something I hadn't really remembered or thought of asking for, but it does help us show up more frequently so that we can reach more people with the information that we're providing. So it would mean the world to us if you'd leave a review on iTunes or Spotify, if you're listening on audio. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you're in the loop for future videos and you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out. Awesome. All right. So I wanted to wrap with a handful of business questions, if that's all right. Do you have an extra 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. All right. So we talked about the devil being the details. In your mind, what does separate a good practice? Because I would argue a good practice is actually probably doomed for failure. It requires being exceptional. Mm-hmm. What are the things that separate a good practice from an exceptional/great practice?
I think it goes back, like if you haven't read that book, Unreasonable Hospitality, like you should. And it goes back to making people feel seen and heard and loved, and that you're taking care of them. And it's from the moment that they see your website, how detailed is it, from the moment they call. Like we have one person who just answers phones. Like if I have 3 people, we're down to 2 right now. But when I have 3 people, I have one person dedicated to that phone, to nurturing phone calls and nurturing that relationship. So when they walk through the door, like, oh, like this feels and looks like exactly like the moment I had on the phone. And then when they come into the rooms literally have pictures, like black and white pictures of our staff, so that they see the family of our staff. They see the TV that I'm talking about.
Oh, I love that.
Picture of me on these video contents. Like I want it to be seamless from the moment they call to the moment they walk in. And then when they leave, I'm walking them up to the front. And I think that giving them more than they expect. When it's their birthday, that's what we use our sample products for. The girls are so good about, we write tickets up today for tomorrow's patients. And then today they're prepping, oh, tomorrow's her birthday. We're going to get like a little gift bag ready, and we're going to throw some samples in there and give that to them when they check out. So it's just going extra and beyond in ways that are not easy. I mean, it's not, you have to think about this and be intentional, and it doesn't come overnight. But like I always am so interested when I go to other doctors' offices or I go train and I'm in another office, like what are we doing things a lot better, or could we do things better? Or, like you want to know, like, what do you see and what do you feel when you walk? What's the vibe of the practice? Mm-hmm. And all those things matter. All the things matter. It doesn't matter like what type of gift bag you give them with. I mean, yes, they love that, but it's how you make them feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. Wrote down that book recommendation. I actually have not read that one, so I'm gonna go dig into that one.
Really good.
No, I have it up on an Amazon tab, so I'm gonna go purchase that post-interview. Okay, next thing would be dealing with competition. Obviously, this is something that's on the forefront of everyone's minds in the industry. Wow. Almost everywhere in the United States, you're jam-packed with competition. I know here in Mount Juliet, I talk about 2 of our most prominent med spas have the most beautiful buildings I've ever seen a med spa have. They're right across the street from each other. I could hit a golf ball from one to the other, and that's true for almost every nook and cranny of the country at this point. How do you think about competition in today's landscape?
Well, you do have to consider your competition. I think if you say, I don't worry about my competition, or I don't know who my competition is, I think that's a naive point of view. Like you need to know who the players are. Do I care what they charge per syringe or all that? I don't care about the charge. But I do want to know, I mean, I'm privy to it, but I don't watch everybody. I watch the people that mean something to me. Like Brandis Harrison at Lexington, Kentucky does an amazing job branding Privé Med Spa. I'm going to watch her versus maybe her competition down the street that tries to emulate her but can't be her. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Am I worried about someone in Cool Springs that's like 5 minutes away who offers the same thing we do? No, I'm not worried about that. But I do like to learn something from my competition. Is there something to learn, like what they're doing well, that we also can do, you know?
So yeah, so model the things that you're like, ooh, that's good, and adopt and be the best version of yourself. And having an eye on some of those other things gives you context to what being the best version of yourself looks like.
Yeah. And I mean, being competitive means maybe just have 2 nights late that you're open. You know,
Do you all do that? Do you have staggered hours available certain days?
Tuesday nights late till 6. Yeah. And that also helps for newer providers who are trying to build their business, take on those patients, like maybe teachers who can't come until after 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We do one Saturday a month, from 9 to 1. And so that's staying competitive. It doesn't mean that you have to offer every service or have every laser. It's just do what you do well and look at like I like to say, be competitive with what you can be as far as your time and your space. But you don't have to have every laser on the market. You don't have to, you have to offer every service.
And yeah, you're like you said, it could be small things too. Like, hey, we don't need to be open every single day till 7 p.m., but allowing this group of patients who we'd lose otherwise to have this option once a month on Saturday or Tuesday night allows you to maintain a whole boatload of patients that might have left you just because they needed something that was more convenient, even if they loved everything else about the practice. So being attuned to those kind of things makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Your Google reviews, to maintain the Google reviews that you have is really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a proactive effort? Does it happen on accident? If it is a proactive effort, what does that look like? And how do you go about thinking about managing your online reputation so that that's intact?
Yeah.
And how do you think about patient care so that you're actually achieving that level of customer satisfaction?
Yeah. Well, we didn't do a great job with reviews in the very beginnings. I mean, gosh, there's so much to do when you open up. You're just like, can I just unlock the door in the beginning versus trying to think it all the way through to a review. So it's one that came with time. But right now, what we're learning is that we need to be on Yelp a little bit more, because Yelp is what will actually show our location on maps. So you just learn so much, right? So we've done a great job on Google reviews. When we were doing a better job, I will say, when we were just single texting the patient saying, hey, if you loved your experience, would you give us, a review? And the front desk would manage that. So I say, if we see 40 patients, new patients a month, we should be getting 45-star reviews. And so I actually bonus the girls up front. If you get 25, and it could be 1-star reviews. I don't care. I just need one a review. If you can get 25 reviews a month, you get an extra $125 a month in bonus. That's the only way I know how to bonus objectively for front desk, right?
Yeah.
So this month they didn't get it, and that's okay because we had a little bit slower month. But the opportunity is there if they will take it. And so they all say, okay, this week we got to have so many per week. We have one person managing it this week, one person sending it out. When we went over to Podium, it was a little bit harder to harness those reviews. So we've had to revert back to another process. So it's give and take in learning how to get the patient to respond. Some patients just give us 5 stars. Some will actually say, yeah, I had great experience with Courtney or great experience with Amy, love the feel. I love that. And then we do surveys too. So we randomly send out surveys to patients and just asking tell us about your service. If there's one thing we could improve on, what would it be? You're not going to hurt our feelings, So we send that out too.
How do you avoid the negative reviews? I know that's a challenge. You're always going to have people that come across that you run into that are kind of pain in the butt or they're being unreasonable. So how do you go about dealing with, I'm sure that you don't have any bad reviews, but I'm sure you've had patients that have been frustrated at one point or the other in 8 years. How do you deal with patients that don't have an ideal experience or have some sort of an issue so that that doesn't end up reflecting in a bad Google review?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all fear it, right? Because we don't want it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be super upset if we get a 1 or 2-star review, because I think it's normal. And I think it does show that you can't be, it's not so perfect all the time, But yeah, I mean, there was a patient last week who came in. I'm like, girls, be ready. I'm going to get a bad review. And she didn't send one, but you can't make everyone happy. And I am quick to fire someone as a patient if they're just difficult in general. And so I know with that could come a review or something's going to happen down the road. But if you're rude to my front desk staff, if you're just so unbelievably impossible to make happy, and the result or the proof is in the pudding and your pictures are perfect and you've had a result, I don't know what else to do to make you happy. I'm not the provider for you. So you're probably best seeing the person you saw before. And I'm always quick to get that patient out of the practice versus nurturing that.
I love that. Yeah. You have to protect, like you said, your team, and the loyalty of your team and the retention of your team is critical to the operation of the business. And if you allow them to get treated badly by a client, you lose a lot of that goodwill from your team. And I think that's a non-negotiable. Yeah. I think that's a really good
And I will say, idea. The busier you are, I'm surprised we don't have more issues, to be honest with you. We had a patient, there'll be scheduling mishaps. And they're like, no, I was scheduled for 8:00. And I'm like, your text says, whatever it is, like you didn't confirm it. Do you not want, there's always something behind it, So I just am I don't ever assume it's our fault. I always am quick to defend our team because I know that we have protocols in place and they're doing their job well. It's probably just like our timing today. It was just a miscommunication on when we were going to start today. But I am quick to defend my front desk staff from anyone being abused. And it happens all the time. Patients will treat your staff like crap. But when you walk in the room, oh, Haley, it's so good to see you. I am not down with that. And I'm just really quick to call it out and get them out of the practice. I remember Dr. Moore, he gave me some wisdom once. He said, I'd rather see the patient, the back of their head once leave than the front of their face coming in 20 million times because you can't make them happy. So I'm just not your provider. I'm just not the person
willing to say no.
Yeah. I'm just not the person for you. And if I get that feeling, I'll say, you know what, let's just not do this treatment today because I don't think I'm going to be your provider. I'm not going to make you happy. Well, wait, you're going to make me happy. I'm like, no, I just don't feel good about this. Let's just not do anything today. And
the biggest problem with that is now people want to do business with you more.
Yeah. They're like, it's like a magnet. You can't get rid of it.
It is. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's great advice. To wrap one of your videos, you're talking about some business advice, EBITDA. And we talked about this being an industry where people have a lot of background knowledge in the medical space. They're really good with patient care, but they maybe struggle with the business aspect. Where do you see most practice owners, even established practice owners, people that are successful by all standards, where do you see people struggling from a business standpoint?
Not knowing your numbers and not knowing how to lead people. So I think you have to identify what you're great at and what you're not great at. I am not great at one. I'm better at communication, but I need a really solid business manager who's good at communicating. Check that off the box. I'm not good at understanding my P&L and my balance sheet. So I hired a fractional CFO, Maven Financial. Andrew Miller is amazing. And
they've been on the podcast too. Yep.
Oh, he's I'm meeting today after this, I'm meeting with him. And it's critical to understanding, I know exactly how much I bring in every hour. I know exactly how much my other girls bring in per hour. I know where we're getting on our adjusted EBITDA and my EBITDA. If you had asked me that 8 years ago, I'd be I don't even know how to spell EBITDA. I didn't understand any of that. And to be fair, I understood that process better when I kind of went down the whole private equity, the year-long due diligence process and then backed out the very last minute. But I learned so much through that process. But it goes back to what are you not good at, and hire the people that help you along the way. I don't have I'm divorced. I don't have anyone helping me. So this is all on me. I have to understand it from I'm responsible for everything that happens. So Maven Financials helped me with that. I have a great office manager. I'm not good at social media marketing, so we have a full-time girl for that. So just identifying what your weaknesses are and finding those people to help you.
Great advice. When it comes to the numbers, are there things that you've learned as a result of your growth? You're like, dang, these are like the couple things that are really like kind of buried in there that you pay a lot of attention to?
Yeah, like today we're meeting just to make sure everything is accounted for, like medical supplies. Well, that's not a medical supply. That's actually product that's being retailed and it's in the wrong category. So we were paying taxes on something that really wasn't products, you know? So going through it line item by line item to make sure it's categorized the way it should be. Inventory, making sure your inventory is spot on. That's why I don't do price per area. I just do it by the unit. I don't talk to unit pricing to the patient. It's just when we're accounting for it, I got to know the units.
Yeah.
And let's see. You know, I learned a lot about adjusted EBITDA and EBITDA through that whole due diligence process. I learned that you know, you're going to have some estheticians in your practice that are going to be device and they're going to be like killing it per hour from a money point. And then you're going to have some that are going to be like, you know, maybe $300 an hour profit because they're doing the lash lifts and things like that. And so making sure that if you're promoting something like on marketing, I don't want to spend a lot of time on lash lifts because that's not giving me anything for the hour in the room. You know, I want to be promoting the things that are they're actually bringing money into the practice. And then just making sure, like, at the end of the day, like, are we making money? Like, are we, you know, like, are we sustainable? Because if you're losing money, I was listening to someone on Instagram last night and he said, he's a business coach. And he said, you know what, what's the problem with you hiring your front desk people that you're not paying them enough because they need to be making $30, $40, $50 an hour. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, there's no way that that's sustainable. You know, you can make them feel loved, but Lord, you can't pay your front desk people $50 an hour. I mean, that's just, you can't do that. So that is where really understanding and digging. I meet every month with Andrew just to get high level. What's our financial scorecard? What's the health of our practice? Are we making money? Are we going towards our goals? And you know, that's also helped me with compensation plans in the future for other people who are coming on board. Like, man, I messed up with this one, but the next one I can't mess up with because there's not enough margin, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like knowing your numbers and like you said in your video, not optimizing for just revenue.
Yeah.
We're running a business, like just making a bunch of money. If you're spending more than you're making doesn't make sense. You can go do something else with your time. It's not going to be beneficial long-term to your team, your patients, yourself. Like the business's profitability and success is a rising tide that lifts all ships. So being dialed into those numbers and ensuring that you're running a profitable business is obviously, it seems obvious, but I feel like there are a lot of people in this industry that they're not profitable because they don't know their numbers. They haven't controlled their expenses to revenue. Mm-hmm. They're just doing things based on a whim, based on a gut. And then they end up in a financial situation where they're just over leveraged in debt. They're not even taking home a paycheck and the whole business is just a total drain.
Yeah. I mean, I'm coaching a few girls on this side and they're like, they haven't taken a paycheck in like a year or two. I'm like, girls, like, no, like where is this money bleeding? Because this is not sustainable. We can't even talk about scaling until we get these numbers under control to where you're taking a paycheck home. Like if you were an injector and you were paying yourself a set hourly with a commission, how much would you be taking home? And why aren't you taking that home? Like what overhead, like going to too many conferences, like what is it, you know? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you know, some people are not in it. They, you know, they're married and they don't have, it's not like, they don't have to make money. It's just more of a hobby. And that's okay too, but just know where you are because I was talking to someone who's been in this industry for years and years and she was looking to sell her practice, but they said no, because she's not profitable enough. So if your end game is to ever sell it, which, you know, you don't have to, you can ride off into the sunset. You had a good career. You don't have to sell if you don't want to. But if you want to sell it, you got to have something to show. I remember someone brought me in like, we would like you to take over our practice and buy our practice. So I went in and looked at her numbers. I'm like, there's nothing here to buy. Like you'd have to pay me to take.
You couldn't even give it to me.
You know? So yeah, you've got to know your margins and also like that's as simple as like not buying too much product or not buying like so many syringes of filler just because the rep needs you to. Like, no, ma'am. Like, what do we need right now? and
plan your inventory.
Yeah.
So with devices, we talked about debt. One of the common themes I see is practices really over leveraged in debt, especially early on. But that seems to be one of like the bigger struggles is people have this grandiose vision of what they want their place to look like. And now they've got a huge debt bill and they've got no business coming in. How do you think about strategically managing debt and expenses? Debt specifically, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our loans are out over 5 years. So I've done 3 build outs since I've opened that for 8 years. So we have construction.
Did you move or just redo office or moved?
So we had a small office in the beginning. We shared it with an optometrist, and we've shared the space. I had 3 rooms because back then I was like, I'm not going to have any staff. I'm just going to be a one solo provider, and realized that Amy came on board. I'm like, man, like Amy's got some potential here. So then we stayed in the same Berry Farms community, but there was like a 2,000 square foot space that was concrete floors. So we built it out again from ground up. Then there was a State Farm next to us, and I took it, so blew through the walls, built, and had to redo that one. So between construction loans and then one device loan, we have it over 5 years. It's completely doable. But I'm not really concerned about paying it down. If it was like more than a 7% interest rate,
yeah,
I would.
But you've got a profitable business that's cash flowing the debt.
Yeah.
And I think the mistake I see a lot of people make is you started small.
Yeah.
And then you had demand and you had business and you had the need to expand.
Yeah.
I think the mistake I see a lot of people make is they just start with this big office, like your third office, that's their first office, and they have no patience.
Right. To me, I've always had the mindset, if I can't pay half of it now, don't buy it.
It's a good rule of thumb. I like that.
So, if I can't pay half the laser right now, then don't buy it until I can. Mm-hmm. And then I finance the other half because it won't be as bad. And then I am working with a girl now, and she just had to get that Moxie BBL platform. And so she bought it. And I'm like, okay, so we got to ramp you up and do enough marketing events over the next few months so that you've got $20,000 at least per month coming in. So what does that look like? What does your marketing strategy look like? How many events are you going to do? She's going to do an AIG. So that to me is like, look at how much that bill is every month and what's your biggest funnel. For us, it's toxins. So do you need to do a toxin event to like get some money in? And then those events, like those gift card events, if you're struggling, to me, like do a 1-day gift card sale, and for $2,000, give them $300 off. And if you can sell 10 of those, you got $20,000 in the bank that day to help.
Yeah, great cash inflow. People that already know, like, and trust you, they're patient. They don't know they're going to spend the money anyways. You're basically giving them a chance to get free dollars, and you get a cash flow infusion.
Yes, yeah. I've never been able to make memberships work where you get that big fund of money in the first of the month. I've never figured that out well. Especially on
I don't know that as many people that claim to have figured it out have, honestly. Like, I'm unsure about that too. Like, you hear everyone talking about the importance of memberships, but how many people are actually on these membership programs? How successful are they? I know Louis Frazina on our episode, he talked about the practices that he's worked with and had more success just doing loyalty programs, like loyalty rewards. Like when I go to Starbucks and scan, I earn enough points that I get a free coffee. So it incentivizes me to come back without being the locked in subscription. And I think the problem is right now, people are like, you see all these commercials for like all the hidden subscriptions that you have.
Yep.
And everyone's got subscription fatigue, and the membership is in a way is just another subscription. I know it makes sense financially and it can work for some practices, but I don't think they're generally as successful or as consistently successful as some people say they are.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because I've never figured it out. We have like we call Tribe, which is for our skincare services. They pay like $75 a month and they get a dermaplane and like something like that, but we only have like, I don't know, 20, 30 people on that. It's nothing major. But I've never been able, I'm like, they're coming in anyway for injectables or something else. So why am I discounting something they're already coming in for? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm just thinking about it wrong, but it's just never worked.
I think you're right. The only way to make it work is you're offering it at a discount. The membership is basically like, even I think the simplest form is it's just cash banked. That's the entire membership is cash banked, but it's to receive special pricing. And if you're already busy, and you're selling it at the price point that you're comfortable with, then you're just giving away free money unnecessarily.
Exactly.
So
It was like bank your Botox in the beginning. People were like, oh, buy a 100-unit vial for $1,000. I remember doing that very at the beginning when we worked in plastic surgery. But those people who could afford $1,000 were already going to be paying $1,300 for it at the end of the
year. And I think the reality is most med spas are trying to live in a space where their clients are choosing to do business with them because they really have a relationship and they know, like, and trust them. And those people are not going to leave you to save $25, $30 on Botox.
No, not for the most part. Now, some people will, but they were never, but they'll come back around, they eventually do, but some people will leave for a little bit, but usually they come back around.
But you're not going to keep those people. That's a race to the bottom if you end up going down that rabbit hole in perpetuity.
And I always said, no, and I tell this to the girls I'm coaching right now, know your top 20 patients, know the people that are bringing the bulk of the revenue in, and nurture them, because they're the ones that are spending a lot of money. I mean, this is crazy. We looked at the lifetime value of patients, and we use patient now. So I can look and say, oh, how much has this patient spent over the course of being open? There are some patients who have spent over $70,000 over 8 years with us. I mean, it's insane. But that's who I'm going to spend my time with. That's who, is loyal to me. So I'm going to make sure she feels loved when she comes in the practice, and we're doing everything above and beyond for her. Yeah.
Treat your VIPs like VIPs.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, Haley, where can people learn more about you and what you're up to? We'll make sure all of the links are in the show notes.
Well, I guess my Instagram page right now. What little bit I'm doing, like growing my little garden and going to Mississippi State to watch my son. That's where I keep updated. That's where I'm usually checking it the most. I'm in the process now of creating, speaking of memberships, I'm in the process of creating a coaching membership site, because there are so many nurses out there and nurse practitioners who are wanting to start their practice, or who have started. They just feel, like you said, like an island, and they just need help and support and community. So I'm on the back end right now trying to develop this right now. Hopefully I'll have it launched by the end of the year or next year. So more to come on that.
Awesome.
But just Instagram right now. That's about it.
Yeah. We'll put the practice link down there, the Instagram link, and whenever the other stuff comes up, we'll make sure to go back and add that to the show notes too.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Haley, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your insights. It was super valuable. I know everyone's going to get a ton from this episode, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. This podcast is a production of Med Spa Magic Marketing. If your med spa or aesthetic practice is in need of digital marketing services, help with advertising on Facebook, Instagram, Google, lead generation, and booking more appointments, please visit medspamagicmarketing.com.